Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay, or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And y'all, you are in for a special treat tonight, okay? So now, in this space that we are in right now, you're in Slay Nation. And when you come to Slay Nation, we come to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. Now, SLAY is not only a powerful word, it's also an acronym because I am extra that way. And each of the letters stands for universal life or leadership philosophy that really resonates with me. And hopefully they resonate with you too. And that is stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, and knowing you are built to last. So as you come in tonight, y'all, please let us know where you're streaming in from because you could be anywhere. All right. There's a whole lot of distractions going on right now. My husband's down there in the basement watching football. I almost said basketball because this is a basketball family too, but he's watching football. And so I know that many of us are getting ready for the week because it is Sun Slay and there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. So thank you so much for being here. But let us know where you're streaming in from. All right, give us your name so we can give you a shout out. Because here on this show, I bring in men and women who are slaying, okay, slaying all the things and they're making a positive impact in this world, doing it on their own terms. So that's what this show is all about. So I am your host. I am a speaker, an author, a consultant, and most proudly, a 30-year United States Air Force veteran. So on this show, I have a lot of veteran sisters and brothers in arms in my community, and then we're just locking hands. We see each other, we stretch our hands to one another, we pull each other in and say, hey, you know what? We have something to share. And I'm like, let's go. Okay. So my guest tonight, she is absolutely SLAYMAZING. Okay. Her name is DeeDee Glodowski, and she is a resilience building leader and strategic communicator whose passion for understanding people and cultures has shaped every chapter of her life. With a master's degree in international relations and a 25 and a half year distinguished service in the United States Air Force, she has developed a global perspective through extensive travel and partnership with NATO allies. Now, her experience have deepened her commitment to diplomacy, connection, and purposeful communication. Now, she is a mom and a wife of an active duty service member, and she brings both a personal and professional insight to the challenges and triumphs of military family life. Her love for exploring cultures around the world and especially their coffee traditions inspired her to find and now founder of Vetley Roast Coffee, a brand rooted in community, craftsmanship, and the stories that bring people together. Now, her lifelong love of communication and storytelling sparked the creation of Vets Speak Media and the Vetley Speaking Podcast, a forum where pivotal issues are explored through the lens of veterans. Through these platforms, DeeDee elevates authentic dialogue, fosters understanding, and empowers others to grow, lead, and engage with purpose. Now, y'all, please give a warm welcome to my great friend and sisters in arms, DeeDee.
Hi, Rochelle. I felt like standing at attention when you said all that. I was like,
You should have been, okay? You
I
should have
was
been, queen.
I felt like I was getting a medal or something. Happy New Year, Queen
Happy
Slay.
New Year.
Eh,
Listen, I have been so excited about our episode for the past few weeks. I'm like, okay, when you can find another sister chief, retired, we have done the things and be able to be on the other side of it and to share in this space. I was like, what? I cannot wait till you get here. So, first of all, I want to say thank you for your yes. All right. And thank you just for, being you because all of you is showing up and I'm like, I'm here for everything.
I am slaying. In
You're
honor
slaying
of
it.
explanation, I had to come correct. Right.
Yeah, like
And
I
so,
say,
first off, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Queen.
I think we could still say Happy New Year, right? We say
Oh
it
yeah.
for the whole
Oh yeah.
month.
Yeah.
But and thanks for having me on. I'm
Yeah.
excited. And in transparency, this is my first live. Because I usually have my podcast and I would record it and I will edit. And I was like, this girl is so bold to go live. And when you said, hey, you're going to come on, I had to think about it. And I said, you know what? I could chicken out of this. I'm not going to do it live. But then I said, you know what? I've got to do it live at one point. And so
Yeah.
now I'm here and I'm hoping that I can host my own podcast
That's
live
right. 'Cause that's
someday.
what happens here.
One step
Okay.
at a time, right? I'm taking one step at a time, but thanks for having me.
You're
And it's good to see
welcome.
you.
It's good to see you
And
too.
I'm proud of you.
Everybody said, "Oh,
I'm proud of you. This is amazing.
yeah." You know, everyone says, and first of all, thank you, Dee Dee, but everyone says here, this is their first. All right.
Mm,
There's a lot of firsts that happen here on this show. And I am just honored that I am the first for so many that see that there's another way to put themselves out there and to
yeah.
share. So, who knows what this could become? Because we were talking earlier, and I was like, we could do a whole other thing. All right. So
Exactly. It's the podcast world, you could take it to as many different levels as you want.
yeah,
Obviously the virtual for ease and convenience, and especially with, the outset of COVID.
yeah,
But now, as we're talking, we could rent spaces where you could actually have them in person,
yeah.
which I love that connection as a Gen Xer.
Me
I
too.
I rather deal with people in person
Yep.
than deal with you virtually, right? And
I
so
agree.
that's always an option that you could, as you grow, you start to think of, okay, we need to do an office space with your own logo in the background,
Yep.
et cetera, right?
Oh yeah, you've already planted that seed. So who knows, y'all? 2026 might look a
There
little
you go.
different when it comes to the show. So
There you go.
okay, listen. So because I'm like overly excited about us talking, let's just first kind of lay the foundation for everyone and just share just a little bit about yourself. You can start from wherever you want, and then we'll just dive right on into the conversation.
Sure. Woo. Yeah, I have had I am, I always start off, now that I'm retired, I start off, I am a mom, a wife,
Hmm.
as you said earlier.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about me is, first generation Nigerian American. My parents, Nigerians. I was born in North Carolina because they
Mm.
were here in school at the time. And we went, and I left, they went back to Nigeria when I was 4. And I was there, went to school, went to boarding school, which, if you are a Nigerian, or even probably a lot of other African countries, going to boarding school was kind of not, it was the norm. And I'm
Mm.
talking the norm has in 10, 11. Even now, I
Wow.
think I think now a lot of schools even have it to where kindergarten age is boarding school. So boarding
Mm.
school is a normal thing. And so I did that. I was in school, and I think I was 15,
Mhm.
16, and my dad was like, okay, you know what? You have a choice. You can now go overseas and go back, or you could stay and take the
Mm.
exams. By the way, the exams to get into university is pretty tough, right? It's
Mhm.
not, I mean, it's not just the SAT type or ACT. It's a lot of prep. I mean, we stay behind in school, you study in school. Even when people are gone for holidays, you stay behind for another extra 2, 3 weeks, and your job is just to study, because that
Mm.
exam is pretty stringent, it's pretty rough, right?
Yeah.
And you do that and before you go to college. So I was like, you know what? Nope, I'm ready to go. Because even when we went to Nigeria, I really had a hard time. I
Mm.
really wanted to stay behind in the States. And so every year I would come home. I would come to, I would say, look at me. I called home at the time, but I would come to the States for holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I would come for holidays. I would come for camps. So I was here mostly every summer with my relatives that were
Yeah.
living in Texas. And so I would come in and I would stay. And I told my dad, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to go. And so I ended up doing my 12th grade. So I did my last year of high school in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went to college in Texas. And I did that for 2.5 before I joined the military.
Mm.
And so that's pretty much, I traveled a lot. Even while I was in college, for 1 year of that, I spent 1 year in Amsterdam.
Oh.
I did a study abroad from college. And so I went to Leiden University, which was in Leiden.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know about me was I interned at the International Court of Justice in Den Haag, because my goal was to be an international lawyer. That's what I went to school, was political science pre-law.
Oh, wow.
So when I joined the military, it's like, people's like, how did I jump from that to joining
That's
the military?
My question was going to be, but yeah, tell us.
And well, it was one of those things where I don't know, I was restless, right? I felt like I was going to school, but I wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And I was restless. And I knew that, one, I needed to make money. My dad was paying for school. So if I was going to tell my dad that I wasn't going to go to school, I knew I was going to have to be on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed that my dad was paying for college. I mean, especially even when I was overseas, was paying for college, sending me money. So I was under that thumb, right?
Yeah.
And, African dads are really good at doing that. Education is such a thing.
Yeah.
And so I took a break and I was trying to debate how to tell my dad that I was not going back to school.
Oh, Lord.
And joining in the military at that. Now, the military was not a plan. So I actually went to an aunt in New Jersey, Bridgewater. I went and I hung out with her and her family. And while I was there, I took on a job and I worked in the gym. And so working in the gym, I think I went to the mall. And this was the time when recruiters were still kind of in the mall.
Yeah.
And so eventually I went in, and now the Air Force thing came in twofold. One, I liked the fact that the recruiter for the Air Force was pretty much the only recruiter in the mall that was chill.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's got to be something to that, because everybody else was like, hey, why don't you come in here? Let me tell you about the Army. Let me tell you about. But he was the only one that was in his office. He looked unbothered. Like he was
that's how we do.
I think he had made his quota. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
probably.
He was not bothered. But second, my dad had a very good friend who happened to be the number 2 of the Air Force in Nigerian Air Force.
Oh. And
so at one point, he actually even encouraged my dad that I write the Nigerian Air Force exam to go to school, which I did for the Nigerian Air Force secondary school. And I did that. Mm-hmm. So I think somewhere in the back of my mind, the Air Force kind of was there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so long story short, I go into the office of the Air Force recruiter. And he's like, well, you know what? You need to do the ASVAB, yada, yada, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I did that. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, I was delayed entry. I was delayed entry for 2 weeks. And then he came up and he says, open it. This is back then when you really don't know. If I'd known, I go back. If I knew what I knew then, now, I probably would have maybe been more particular about the job, but no regrets, everything for a reason. And it brought me to this stage, right? But it was open entry. And I was like, okay, well, as long as I'm not a security forces, that I remember telling myself in my head, right, I don't know
Yeah.
what that means, but I don't want to be security forces because I
Oh.
saw the list. And he says, well, you know what? We'll see. I don't think so. Long story short, he calls me up and he says, hey, you ready to go? I said, I'm ready. And this was December 2nd
Mm-hmm.
was when I went
Mm-hmm.
of 1998. And
Yeah.
I went to basic and I went as hospital admin. So that was my first AFSC. And for those listening that don't know what AFSC, my specialty was medical administration.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up going to basic and I was there for Christmas and I was there for New Year's.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes. And I happened to be dorm chief as well.
Oh, Lord.
Now I wasn't dorm chief in 0 week.
Oh, okay.
I was dorm chief. We had a dorm chief from Wednesday because you remember we used to go in. I don't know, but we went in on Wednesdays,
Mm.
and so it was a Wednesday in the middle of the week. So I was there Wednesday. I wasn't dorm chief Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning. They fired the old dorm chief, and then they were like, "You're it," and I was like, "Okay." I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I was told by my recruiter to be quiet, to just kind of go in and do my time, and I was fine with just being in the back.
Girl, you know what they do. They see someone that, they see could step up to the challenge and they're like, yeah, you're going to do it. I think our stories are somewhat similar because, I was tagged as an element chief and y'all like dorm chief is the big person that takes care of all of us outside of the training instructor, the MTI that we have.
Yeah.
So, Dee Dee was like the second in charge, if you will. Now, I was like the third, fourth, or fifth, depending on what number is, because they had all the
First
individual
element, second
yeah,
element,
first element,
yeah.
second element, third element. But there's something to that, and I think that speaks to where we ended up in our careers. I
Yeah.
really do because it was like the beginning of leadership. Like
Correct.
we started to really understand, demonstrate, perform in these leadership capacities from the very start. And, I got the same thing as a recruiter. Keep your head down, don't volunteer, just get through it, right? And, so our experiences were a little bit different than others,
Yeah. But funny enough with the leadership thing, when I was in school, and this was because in the Nigerian school system, there's a junior secondary school, which is 7th to 9th grade. And then
Mm.
there's a senior secondary school, which is 10th to 12th. So
Mm.
I went to an all-girls school
Mm-hmm.
from my 7th to 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Then I transferred to another school. And at this point, this is where I went. When I went to the school, I actually was what we call the head girl. Now, the head girl is there's always a head girl and a head boy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the senior prefect in a sense. Is think of it like a dorm chief sense in school.
Yeah.
So my job was to pretty much take care of, because when you go to boarding school, like the school I went to, we went to class and then we went to the dorms and the adults were gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the students were the ones running the dorms.
Mm-hmm.
We were in charge of making sure that, the chores were done and things like that. Right. And so I was the head girl in school. So when I went to basic, what was going on in basic training was not new to me at all.
Oh, no.
From age 11, I'd been waking up at 5. And I literally, I tell my kids, I was a uniformed person for my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, wearing uniform from kindergarten all the way through into, then, okay, the little break in school and college or, the high school, and then going into the military. Uniforms, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been a uniform person my entire life, but that was really the beginning for me of leadership, was me being that head girl at, in the school.
Yeah.
And so when I went to basic, waking up at 5, having
Yeah.
that regimen, having
Yeah.
my locker space and all that, I think the TIs noticed, because I
Hmm.
remember when they hired me, they called me to the snake pit. They were so curious. They're like, so tell us, first of all, my name, my name, for people that see the DeeDee is my nickname.
Hmm.
And my full name is Edidiong, right? And they were like, so where are you from? They were so curious to know what my name was all about, and where, and I was like, you know what? You have it all together. And I'm like, yeah, I've been in. So I told them about my boarding school experience, and they were like, makes a lot of sense,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It was basic was easy for me. I don't want to
For me too.
I don't want to diminish,
E-
the toughness of, but it was easy for me. I was
Yeah.
used to that kind of regimen.
Yeah. Well, I think the environments for where we come from, they shape, what we do. And it's very similar. My dad was in the military. So we were raised, with a lot of structure. We had to make our beds in the morning. We had to
Yeah.
clean our rooms. We had chores when we came out. We had school time that we knew that we needed to do that. And I mean, all the things were set up, and we went to bed at the same time and got up
Yes.
early. On Saturdays, we didn't get a break, just to watch cartoons and, like the other kids, you see them riding their bikes in the neighborhood. No, the King girls were, cleaning up the house, cleaning the cars, everything had to be done before we could even think about, okay, now you can go and hang out with your friends and so forth. But I think, again, what we were doing in our previous prior to going into the military, it kind of set the tone
It
for
did.
what we did when we were actually serving, leading, directing, whatever those words that we, had on our performance reports. But it does help to understand that that was a lifestyle.
It was. It built your resilience. You're not even thinking, I mean, you're young. You're not thinking of it as resilience. You're not really
No.
putting it into the context of that leadership realm that we know today.
Yeah.
But at some point, you build that resilience, and you also know how to engage with different people,
Yeah.
because when you're told to be a leader in any format, you're not going to be dealing with the same people,
No.
and you have to meet people where they are if you're going to
Mhm.
pull them together, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so even that little time in boarding school, where I had to sit down with the head boy and the element leaders, they weren't called element leaders, but they were like the labor. We had the labor prefect. That person
Yeah.
was in charge of all the chores that were going to be, you know, to be divvied out in school. We had
Yeah.
the health prefect. That was the person that when someone was sick, they called upon. I mean, literally, it was very structured.
Yeah.
The boarding school was so structured. So when I went to basic, I was like, I would remember them yelling in my face. And then
Oh.
and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, there is not, as a matter of fact, I got fired. I got fired by, I will never forget it, Tech Sergeant Rusky. I think I was
Girl, she
throwing, you
she
know
knows
what,
the name and everything.
I did, but the thing is, she brought mail, and we used to pass out the mail. And I
Yeah.
remember tossing the mail, and
Yeah, yeah.
she did not. She was upset, and she
Yeah.
came running. Why are you tossing my mail? And
Yeah.
so I laughed,
Yeah.
and so she pulls out. They gave us a. We used to have a thing on our chest that, I forgot what it read. I think it said dorm chief, and she pulled it off me, and she fired me.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, that night I got rehired by
Of course.
it's just like, they're like, you're not gonna get off that easy. Here's
Right.
your badge.
Yeah.
Now go line up your flight.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like, man, I thought I was safe. I thought I was out of this game,
No.
But so it's yes, it's the beginning of leadership.
Yeah.
And I just liken that basic training and our military career just kind of shaped everything and put it all in a nice bow. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And we had names attached to what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember using words like resiliency and all that in when I was in
No.
boarding school. I didn't
No.
use any of those terms.
Yeah. Well, we didn't use any of those words either when I was growing up. It was just, you're going to do this. This
That's
is what
pretty
we're
much
doing.
it. That's pretty much it.
So, and I do love how you recognized that the boarding school was, kind of that first step into the leadership role as you were, in your career. And, like for most of us, especially as Black women, there are challenges because it's in a system that wasn't really designed for us to succeed in a lot of different ways. But we were able to navigate through those. So, for anyone, that is potentially at the point we were, which was, let's just take it from Chief, right? Because I think there are a lot of people who listen to the show that are entering into that territory.
Yeah.
Or are absolutely in the territory.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes, an outsider speaking to some of the challenges and how we overcame them. So is there anything in particular that comes to mind that you would offer for someone who may be sitting in a challenging position right now, that would be helpful for them in their journey?
Whew. I think it's find somebody that you can confide in.
Mm,
That saying is lonely in the top. It's so
yeah.
true. I I think so. It's
Yeah.
And when people say that, it's not that you don't have people you could go talk to.
Yeah.
It's just that if you do it well,
Yeah.
you don't talk down
Right.
or you don't complain down,
Complain. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because eh, I mean, it's not because you're superhuman. It's just because there is a particular decorum, I guess, in leadership foundation that you don't talk down.
Yeah.
I I think for me, what I found helpful was I had really good mentors and friends that I could go to and
Yeah.
talk lateral
Yeah.
and up.
Lateral on up. Yep.
Right. And so that was what did it for me because I can tell you there were so many times that, that there were challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just in leadership role though. That's
Right.
at every step. And I
Yeah.
think the challenges are different.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, I was telling my husband because he just recently got promoted. And I told him, I said, well,
Congratulations.
I said, yeah, you had your challenges. Thank you. I'll tell him. I said,
Yeah.
you have your challenges when you're an airman, when you're an
Yep.
NCO.
Yep.
But it's different when you are senior leader.
Yeah.
That one was a little different for me. And I can tell you, it was harder.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think my last role in particular, outside of being chief into the next level, was the hardest job that I ever had.
Yeah.
And, even though I had all of the experience and the tools and the skill set, and, you have all of the, back, you know what's going on behind the scenes, if you will, it still took a lot to lead at that level.
Why do you think that
I
is?
think I think it's because things become bigger. All right. The conversations are bigger, right? The number of people are bigger. Like everything is on a bigger scale.
I
All
get
right.
it.
So you have complex, the complexity of the situations becomes so much that you're like, okay, breaking it down and trying to figure out where the origin of the problem or the issue came from.
And you're on
And,
the spotlight. The
your
spotlight is on
spotlight
you.
scrutiny is just one of those things that I always knew, like they are all waiting on me. They're waiting on
Mhm.
me to do several things, either mess up, okay, or they're waiting for me to make a decision. All right. and or it's waiting for the message. All right. And all those had to be in such a way where it got people to move. Okay. Move forward. And sometimes that took a lot of conversations over and over and over again. Right. So I felt like there was a lot more responsibility,
Yeah.
a lot more ownership that went into the roles that we were in, especially at the very end. Um, so when people say, "Oh, this is," when people said, "I'm living the dream," I don't know if they ever said that, because
Yeah, they did. And I was like, well, yeah. I never said that.
I
I
never said
That
that.
wasn't a thing that I said. I mean,
No.
now I say that because yes, I will tell you my military career, the 25 and a half years, my dreams came true.
Yeah,
Every job that I wanted, I got.
yeah,
And I don't know if you can mirror it to luck, hard work, whatever. I was
yeah,
just blessed to when I said, "Hey, I would love to go work on the hill."
yeah,
I did what I needed to do, followed the steps, had great mentors,
yeah.
and boom, I'm on the hill.
Right.
I wanted to go to the European Command. I've been trying to go overseas since I joined. I mean, ironically, not to do a pivot, you ended your career in Ellsworth, correct? And
Yeah,
I
yes, I
started
did.
my career in Ellsworth.
Yeah,
And
yep,
so, one of the reasons I connected with you was I was like, you know what? She's the command chief at the 28th. I kind of would like to go back to the 28th if I could go back to the 28th.
yes,
Now, when I was there the first 3 years,
yeah.
I hated it.
Oh yeah,
It was cold.
as most people do.
I was in the dorms.
Yes.
There was so much drama in the
Oh
dorms.
my gosh.
And it's just because it was so cold. There's nothing
Yes.
really much
There's
to
nothing to do.
do. Um, and But I think it's just yeah, it's not easy.
It's not.
My hardest emotional intelligence wise
Mm-hmm.
was as a chief.
Yep. Yeah.
From the
I can believe
moment
it.
that I was selected to be a
Yeah.
chief,
Oh.
my first role,
Yeah.
man, I struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I struggled.
Yeah.
It was really difficult. And I remember missing being a master sergeant
Mm.
because, or a tech. Because
Mm.
at that role, I remember I was a program manager.
Yeah.
You had all these programs, you had the control, you knew what you needed to do, you had your checklist, you had your AFIs, your Air Force instructions, your policies, your regulations, and you knew how to take care of people in that manner.
Yeah.
You were not responsible
Mhm.
for the emotional intelligence of others,
No. No.
right?
Yeah.
And so when I was faced with that, I struggled.
Yeah.
Admittingly, I did.
Yeah.
Now, I had amazing mentors that were patient with me and leaders that
Yeah.
were patient with me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, once you are in that role, you work for the boss, you work for your commander, right?
Yeah.
You work for him or her. And it's not our job to set objectives. It's our
Yeah.
job to fall in line with the boss's objective, with the leader's objectives, but have our own lines of efforts and
Yes.
how we get there, right?
Exactly.
For that individual.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, it wasn't easy to do.
No.
Not necessarily because of the leader, but just because of, like you said, it's just such a big scale. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so much going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't easy.
You know what? I don't think anyone who did it the way that we were doing it, and because we were all in, and we understood that the role of a chief would be hard. And so when you're in it and you're like, okay, I know these challenges are going to come, I know this is going to be a conversation I have to have, these are things that push us, and other people see that, you know what, it is hard. So when people say it's easy, I always used to question. I didn't question whether it was, kind of easy. I would question myself, like, if you wanted it is easy, what would that look like?
Leadership is
Because
not
you know what
easy.
I mean? I felt like I was being pushed into like reaching my full maximum,
Potential.
like
Yeah.
full potential. Like, how can I, start to see myself as a better leader, getting better at this particular area that I am not really great at, right? And seeing, okay, I now have another opportunity to get better in this area. How am I going to rise to the challenge? And so when people say, "Oh, this is easy," I'm like, "So you're not being challenged." Like, I
That's
feel
pretty
like,
much what
you
that
know what
is.
I mean? I don't feel like
Yeah.
then you're actually growing, because it was a major growth spurt. And so much so, DeeDee, that when I crossed over, and we're kind of going to talk in this transitional phase, that my transition still challenging, but at the same time, I felt like it was going, like the little meter was going like this, like the middle lines here, and it
Yeah.
was just going this instead of this. So in
Yeah.
imagining a wheel, half of a wheel, it was just clicking like this. So I knew that I wasn't too far off from where I was going to go.
Yeah.
So because I had done so much in that role, that I was like, you know what? Let's go. Let's go with this transition. Let's go. Let's see where this is going to take me. And so, the more and more that we see ourselves in a more challenging environment, or being pushed just a little bit, I think that, is it helps. It didn't do anything negative for me at all. I mean, I felt like this is an emotional journey. It's supposed to be an emotional journey. I'm going to deal with these emotions. Okay. So let's see where we're going to go. So you're absolutely right when, you're sharing, how difficult it was in that. But,
Yeah.
you've transitioned. How long you've been retired now?
Man, it feels like forever. Jeez, I have to think about that. July 1st, 2024, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so we have very different, for me, when I retired, I thought it wasn't how I wanted to retire.
Yeah. And yeah,
That
and
I
let's talk about that.
it wasn't how I wanted to retire. It wasn't
Yeah.
even a plan, right?
Yeah.
In my head, 30 years was where I was going to go.
Yeah.
I was brought up, and I had planned, okay, and I understand plans can change,
Yeah.
but I did not expect to be sick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because in 22 I had viral meningitis.
Mhm.
And literally, I remember I was at this time, I was stationed in UCOM in Stuttgart, Germany. And I was sick. I was in a hospital for 2 months. I don't remember 1 month of that. And my amazing husband, I mean, you could say I am like so blessed to have a man like that beside me. He was there all throughout, taking care of me and also taking care of our babies, our twins,
Mhm.
and also himself going to work because he's an Africa Command as well. So I did not expect to be sick, and then when I was sick, I thought it was something that, okay, you know what? Once I am out of the hospital, I would be fine. I would
Mhm.
bounce back. I would get back into the fight and move on. But
Right.
this was a very different kind. I mean, I had to relearn how to speak, had to relearn how
Mm.
to walk.
Mm.
I mean, all the therapies you can think of: physical, occupational, speech. I did it all. I was, as a matter of fact, I ended up going to um, the Fisher House in Longstow because I had to do a lot of my therapy there and also my
Mhm.
treatment.
Mm.
So it wasn't how I was supposed to. But I think why I was also really, I don't want to say bitter, but the transition was hard for me was because even though where I was at the time, I did not feel I had the support I needed from my leadership. Now,
Mm.
my leadership came in a lot of different folds. I had the leadership in the European Command, and I
Yeah.
had the leadership that has a National Guardsman. I had my National Guard Bureau family.
Yeah.
If it were not for my chief sisters and brothers, I don't know if I would have fared very well.
Mm.
They rallied around me,
Yeah.
and so when you say it, to add to what would you suggest people do when they find themselves in this situation, it
Yeah.
is when you are that chief community is a small one.
Mm-hmm.
There really shouldn't be any room for any kind of strife, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
because no one else understands what that's like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I was so lucky because the chiefs, the E9s, not just chiefs, the sergeant majors, it obviously was a joint environment.
Yeah.
The master chiefs, senior master chiefs that were there, we rallied amongst ourselves. We were pretty close.
Yeah.
It's probably of all the places I was stationed in, it was probably the closest that we were.
Yeah.
Didn't mean that we didn't have disagreements, but we took care of each other. What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
If
That's
it
so
weren't
important.
if it weren't for them, I
Yeah.
don't think I would have fared very well.
Yeah.
Now, when I say I didn't get the support from my leadership in European Command, I want to be clear that it's not like they were mean to me or dismissive, but I think they did not understand the extent of how sick I was. And I don't
Mm.
know if it's partly because it's me acting strong
Yeah.
and I wasn't as vulnerable,
Yeah.
or it was just them. I felt like they were tired of me being sick for too long.
Mm.
When you think about it, when you're in that role, I was a senior enlisted leader in the division, in the directorate,
Yeah.
and it's important because you've got to take care of people.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to be sick for 2 weeks, is another to be sick for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So I felt like their patience ran
Mm-hmm.
thin. And now I was angry and upset because I felt like all these years that I had nothing wrong with me,
Yeah.
the one time that I needed them to be patient with me,
Yeah.
they were not.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so eventually what I did was I leaned in, and again, I had some great mentors that were in the directorate. And that's when it just dawned on me. I remember we went on vacation, because remember, my kids are dealing with this. They're seeing their mother sick. And
Yeah.
this was also during the COVID timeframe. So they
Mm-hmm.
were only allowed to see me in the hospital for like an hour or two at a stretch on weekends only.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? It was summer. I was going to take them on a trip. We were
Yeah.
supposed to have gone for a little vacation in London, but when I was sick, we couldn't go. So I
Yeah.
said, okay, I was going to go. We ended up going to Italy. And on the way in Italy, that's when I was talking with my husband, and it dawned on me that it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
When they say, it's time to go,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's true. If you are when it's time to go, it's time to go, you'll know. No
Yeah.
one else will tell you, you'll know.
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me, I would never forget. We were on a train ride and I just knew. I looked at my husband, I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I said, I'm done. Now, just because I said I'm done doesn't mean that I did not feel like I wasn't still, I wasn't hanging on to the uniform, but I felt like, you know what? It really wasn't my time to go yet.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many things that I wanted to still kind of do. I still loved wearing the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I still loved the service,
Yeah.
And I mean, I had people that were trying to figure out how, in a sense, to keep me
Mm-hmm.
in,
Yeah.
but I wasn't willing to sacrifice my health anymore
Yeah.
and push it to the side.
Yeah.
Right. I felt
Yeah.
like I needed a lot of time. What had happened to me required more than just 2 weeks of recovery,
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks of convalescent leave.
Yeah.
I needed a lot of care.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair to the organization, the people that I served and I took care of, or I was charged with taking care of, deserved more than what I was giving them.
Yeah.
So it was selfish of me to say, I want to stay on for 2 years. Commander doesn't have his or her senior enlisted leader
Yeah.
at full throttle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was twofold. I
Yeah.
knew, I mean, I was a
Yeah.
little selfish. I knew
Yeah.
that I was like,
Yeah.
I wish you guys would be patient with me. But I also understood that the organization deserved a lot better than what I was giving them.
Yeah.
And that it was time for me to step out.
Which
And
is
so
hard.
I left.
I mean, I just even you sharing it and listening to it, it's just like only imagining how hard that was for
It
you.
was hard. It was
You know?
very hard. I mean, I remember staring at my uniform in the closet,
Yeah.
and I would just look at it. My
Yeah.
husband doesn't even know. If he's listening to this, he'll now know. I would stare
Yeah.
at it, and I would look at it and I would tell myself, how did what happened here? And I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out in my head, what's my purpose? Like, why
Yeah.
is all of this happening? Why me? I mean, I went
Mhm.
from running, lifting, being in shape, loving all that we do, to
Mhm.
being on steroid shots, steroid medication, eye surgeries, gaining like 80 pounds from having to go
Sure.
back to I remember going to Ramstein, going to the uniform section and buying uniforms just so that I could fit my uniform, not
Mhm.
feeling good about myself in uniform.
Mhm.
God, it was so hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard. And if I tell you that, to the point where I have still not had a retirement ceremony. I never had one. Now, it's not because people didn't want to help me do one.
Yeah.
I was still, in a sense, I don't want to say, I was still a little angry,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I'm never one for, everyone has their thing. I was never one for, I was always grateful when I got my decorations and my awards, when you PCS and everything else.
Yeah.
When I PCSed out of UCOM, I got nothing. I got zero.
Yeah.
And
So for
did I
so
did I
for
deserve it? Maybe. I don't know.
for
Um,
DeeDee, for the purpose of, because some of the people that are listening, may not understand some of the acronyms or abbreviations. So you use PCS, which y'all, it means permanent change of station, where
correct.
you go from one base, you get assigned from one base to
To
the other
another.
base. So so they can stay on track, because you know how we can get in here.
Yes, and I try to do a very good job in translating our acronyms.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I mean, this is not a bitter fest. This is literally raw.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
first time that I'm really talking about it in this detail, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not to um speak badly on any command or anything to that effect. No, they took care of me. They took care of my family. But
Yeah.
I'm saying that eventually, at some point, I knew that there was a little bit fatigue in doing that because they also had mission, and this
Mhm.
was during the height of when we were dealing with a lot of things going on with the Ukrainian.
Yeah.
um and I even remember just trying so hard to fight to get back in the game. I did.
Mhm.
I fought really hard, but my body was broken. Like I needed a lot of therapy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I needed a lot of therapy. And I was trying so hard to just be normal.
Yeah.
And I knew that, you know what? It's not fair to the organization and it's not
Mhm.
fair to me.
Yeah. That part is not fair to you.
It's not
Yeah.
fair to the organization. It's not fair to me. For the first time, I had to be selfish.
Yeah.
And you know that when you wear that uniform, that word does not exist. If you're
Yeah.
doing it right,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as
There is,
selfish.
yeah, and to what you're sharing, so many of us that do it in such a way where we are giving all of us, right?
Yeah.
And the time span, because I'm just listening to this like 2 week, you thought it was going to be 2 week recovery when it
Mhm.
really needed a year, you
It
know
needed more than that.
yeah, to
Mhm.
really be like, okay, let's start again, right? And like I shared, it's a system, and the system has to keep going,
It
right? There
does.
is and these gaps that they have, and I love that you said, it wasn't like you being mad at them, because it was like a twofold kind of perspective. It was either they didn't understand because we aren't as vulnerable and we don't share all the things. We don't say we are down. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
We are
broken.
down. Yeah, I'm broken.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get there. It has always been, no, I'm gonna get there, right? This something in our mind, because we operate at such a high level, and we're going, and now it's like you're at a stop, and it's like, well, I can get there, but it's like, okay. So I love that it was either them not understanding because you didn't share, or they weren't willing to wait for this long period of time because it just started to grow where they needed someone there.
They did. And maybe there were things that were falling off.
Yeah.
Let me be transparent. There were things that were falling away, things that normally wouldn't have fallen off.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that started to be my brand. Funny enough, as we're
Mm,
talking about a brand, my
yeah.
brand started to
Yeah.
whittle down.
Mm.
And so,
Mhm.
again, no fault to the command,
Right. Yeah.
no fault to my commanders and my
Yeah.
bosses. My brand started to whittle down.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I was not being true
Yeah.
to what was going on. I was trying so hard to fit into something that I wasn't really ready for
Yeah.
physically, not because it's
Physically.
my choice, but
Yeah.
I mean, I remember trying to even run. I was
Mm.
like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get back in the game. I'm going to go running. And I had been on so much steroids for so long that I had heat resistant. I was so it took nothing and I would be very hot, and I
Mhm.
would get hot that my hands will puff up as if my
Mm.
blood pressure was really high.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it
I
makes total
mean,
sense.
it was insane. Even
Yeah.
putting together a Thanksgiving for the directorate, right?
Yeah.
I remember having to run outside every 30 minutes just to get the cool air, because I was so hot.
Oh, wow.
And it was really hard to really explain to people what
Yeah.
was going on, because
Yeah.
also there's another factor of embarrassment. You
Mm.
know, I didn't feel like I was the part. It's like you wear
Mhm.
that uniform, you walk in with confidence, you know that, okay, you know what? I'm here to
Yep.
serve. I
Yep.
did my best. I
Yeah.
did my best, but it wasn't good enough. At
Yeah.
that level, there's a
Yeah.
standard that is high, right? And it wasn't good enough.
Mm.
That's, to be fair, it wasn't
Yeah.
good enough.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided, I'm like, look, I can battle this and really dwindle my brand a lot more,
Yeah.
or I could just bow out.
Yeah.
And again, bowing out didn't mean that it was easy to do either, but
Yeah.
I knew that it was necessary, because once you leave, guess what?
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to come in.
Somebody else coming in right behind you.
Someone,
The
and
day of, okay.
you hope that that person is even better than you. I've always,
Exactly.
you know, it's like, what? If I leave, whoever came in, I wanted that person to be better. And I did
Yeah.
my very best to set them up
Yeah.
to make sure. But
Yeah.
I didn't even have handoff,
Yeah.
because I know it was an unexpected exit, right?
Yeah.
They weren't really expecting the National Guard Bureau. They didn't see it coming that I
Yeah.
was going to, like, I'm out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I had to do it. And
Yeah.
again, I think it's also a reminder that when you serve, it's called service for a reason. You serve at the pleasure of the organization. And just like when I always used to mentor people, I'm like, look, if you are doing the long-term thing, once you
Mm.
hit 20, you
Yeah.
should be mentally, in your mind, be prepared to leave. Doesn't
Mm.
mean you're going to leave, but
Yeah.
if you kind of have it in your mindset, okay, I'm at my 20, I could leave tomorrow, you will be better prepared,
Mm.
because I was prepared. I was financially, education, I was prepared to go,
Yeah.
but I was still hanging on a little bit to the uniform, to the
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie, just being around.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I'd known as an adult. It's all
Yeah.
my adult life
Oh
was
yeah.
military life.
Oh yeah. It could be it's a lot, especially transitioning. And if you have a transition like yourself, where you now have to like really figure out, like, okay, like, who's DeeDee going to be? Where
Yeah.
am I going? What is this all going to look like? And we met through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. And you still put out, like cliff notes, which I absolutely love, about VA benefits,
Mhm.
kind of things that are changing and so forth. And I mean, you never know what someone's story is. And that's why I bring people here on the show, so that people can learn different people, because when we see someone we don't know, and we are quick to, be like, oh, okay, well, they reached this pinnacle part of their career, and wow, that, but
But what's the backstory?
what's the backstory to it all, right? So I thank you for sharing that and being very transparent to us, because I know that's going to help a lot of people that view the show. We do have people here on the Facebook side. Okay, Facebook, you don't allow us to be great because I can't see any of the comments still, but I can see it on my phone. So we have Kim Mallard, who me and her were stationed together when we were in Japan. So my sister in arms is here. And then Leslie George, whose dad actually served in the military. So she's been around the military.
Family.
You're
There you go.
absolutely great friends as well. And she's listening in. So thank you, Queens, for listening in tonight on the live show. So, now that you're, it's been since what you said, July of 2024,
4. Mm-hmm.
and you're now in the transitional space, if you will. So you have kind of two things going on right now that you're tapping into. You've got Vets Speak Media,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have your Vetly podcast that goes with that, and then you have your
Vetly roast.
Vetly
I
roast
know.
coffee
Right.
that you have too. So tell a little bit. And yes, y'all, we're going over a little bit today, so we'll be fine. All right. But we definitely want to continue having this conversation. So how did you get into each one of those?
I love, we are storytellers, just like
Mm-hmm.
you said, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and actually, funny enough, while I was in boarding school, I remember starting a press club. I think I mentioned that at one of my podcasts, but I remember starting a press club.
Yeah.
At one point, I wanted to be in journalism
Yeah.
and then law. right? So
Yeah.
those are the two things that I always hovered around. I like listening to people's stories, and I like telling them. So I figured, I said, you know what, I'm going to kind of mirror our strategic communications, and I'm going to start a media thing where I could write, I could have the podcast, and the podcast was something that um, I was kind of nervous about doing, but
Mm-hmm.
I had full encouragement from great mentors that said, you know what, just start.
Just start.
That's the key. Just start. Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I did. I started it. And obviously the vetly comes from veterans. When you
Mm-hmm.
say frankly speaking, vetly speaking, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I just stuck with that. And then coffee, well, we're military people. You say water, alcohol, coffee. Those three
Water,
things,
alcohol, coffee.
for the most part. I didn't want to deal with the alcohol piece and all the rules that go with that.
Right.
And so I love coffee,
Yeah.
traveling around and just being stationed in different places, all the different TDYs that we go to, and just having to immerse ourselves with their different way of how they drink coffee, Turkish coffee,
Mm-hmm.
African
Yeah.
bean coffee, South American bean coffee. I dove into that
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah. I love it too. I just like all the aesthetics too. Like, you put it out there and I was like, wow. Like for many veterans, right, that are transitioning, we may not see ourselves in these spaces,
Mhm.
right? We may see ourselves going back federal government and those types of things. And that there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing wrong
But,
with that at all.
at all. But there is also a part of us that we have, these interests, these other things that we could share with the world. And, like thought leadership is one of those things because I think when you do spend a lot of time in a particular a career where you are a leader, you become somewhat of like you have all these random things
Right.
that you want to share, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you have so many stories and just experiences. So, you can do that from a written perspective, right? And I know you said you're working on your book and you're like,
I am. It's funny because I write it, I scratch it off. I write it and I scratch it off. And so
yeah.
I'm not in any hurry. But, funny enough, Rochelle, if I wasn't sick, I think I would have ended up in the federal government after I
Hmm.
retired. I
Yeah.
honestly would have, right?
Yeah.
Everything for a reason. I think when we were talking before we came on live, I don't know what my purpose is,
Yeah.
and why what happened to me. It
Hmm.
made me pivot, and I
Yeah.
think that's just something that we always mentor, or the people that we mentor, we're always telling them, what, look, sometimes life will not, it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, left
Yeah.
and right, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to pivot and then hopefully do some self introspection and like, what is it that I need to learn from this? Where are
Yeah.
you trying to lead me to? um if I had retired the way I wanted, I probably would have ended up, because I actually did, when I left, I took on a contracting role.
Hmm.
Amazing contracting job, no
Hmm.
complaints. I
Yeah.
did that for 6 months and I said, no, I can't do it.
Hmm.
I told myself, no, I can't do it.
Hmm.
One, physically, I couldn't do it because of a lot of the stuff that I was still having to deal with
Yeah.
medically.
Yeah.
But two, I did not want to work in a skiff anymore. It was a
Mm,
skiff job. And
yeah.
I was like, for how long I've been in skiff life, for those listening, the skiff, it's just this secure compartmented area where we get classified information worked. And with the level of clearances that you have, you're more than likely with a top secret clearance to work in a place that is always secure. And
Mhm.
especially during the winter and the fall period, when you go in,
Mm,
it's dark, you come out, it's dark.
mm-mm.
I just didn't want to ride with that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I decided that, you know what? I am going to try my own thing. I don't know
Yeah.
where it's going to take me.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm having fun with it
Yeah.
and I'm learning along the way and I'm growing with it.
Yeah. Again, I think, very similar to just figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing, you
Hmm.
know, and not putting so much pressure to, produce the results that was necessary when we were in service. It's more on, what do I feel like? Maybe one day I don't push it so hard. Maybe one day all I'm doing is in the house and I'm watching TV and just chilling out,
Amen.
in a book, or and just, doing something that, helps me to get back to, instead of
Yes.
having this very consistent, like, hard, going hard in the paint every single day.
You've done it. You did it for 30. You have to think about that. You did that for 30 years where you answered, you had to show up at a certain time. You had
Yeah,
to leave at a certain time. You
yeah,
extended your time. You missed birthdays. You missed
yeah,
anniversaries.
that's right.
I mean, now when you retire, the whole point, is, someone said the other day, it's like, you're too young to retire. I said,
Oh
do you know
yeah,
how old I
it's all
am?
that time. I know.
I said, first of all, do you know how old I am? And yes, I may be that age. I don't mind. I'm 49 years old.
Yeah,
And I said, I may be that age, but
yeah,
you have to think of all the things that I had to do for the past 25 years. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So I am gladly retired. I told my
yeah.
husband, I'm like, look, I work for myself.
That's right. And it's different. And I have grown significantly since I retired. Of all, you're talking about business acumen. You're talking about, how to go network, making new friends and new connections, creating a different lifestyle than you had before. The space is required,
Yeah.
for you to be able to do that. So when people, and don't get me wrong, my dad did it, and so many other people do too. They retire on a Friday and they go work
Go back to
in the
next.
company on a Monday, right? So, but
Some people in the same position, just different, just
same
different
position, same
locations. I was
chair,
like, how do
same
you do
chair.
that? It's
It's
like, oh
just
my goodness, God bless them. You
it's just,
know, I'll
you
tell
know.
you one thing, Rochelle. One thing I did keep is a regimen. No,
Oh
I
yeah,
I feel like one of the biggest advice I tell people for me in my transition journey
yeah,
from military to civilian
yeah,
is keep a schedule. No,
yes,
no, and I can't sleep in. That's the one
yeah,
thing I've tried. I
yeah. I
cannot do
tried.
it. I
Yeah,
tried it. I cannot. I'm up. I have a schedule. I have a regimen. And I think that helps.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, keep healthy, drink
yeah,
water, get
yes,
sunlight. If
yes.
you can't work
Get
out
some
because of
sunlight.
anything else, I like right now, I don't run anymore as much, but I walk. I've got my dogs. I take a walk. Every
Yeah,
morning we go out and I get that sun in my face for at least
yes,
30 minutes. Then I
yeah,
try to do an hour of walking,
yeah,
and trying to get some kind of lifting or some kind of strength training. I
yeah,
mean, we've got our veteran benefits. Go
yeah,
to the gym on post if you're near post,
yeah,
and go work out a little bit, and then figure out what to do. Journal,
yes,
read a book,
yeah,
but keep a regimen. That has to keep your mind sharp
yeah,
because for when I got out, the first 2 months, I was kind of like without any kind of schedule, and I
yeah.
found myself in a very dark.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when you get up around the same time, and I'm with you, like I get up around the same time without an
Yep.
alarm clock. I
Yep.
don't need that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So my body naturally gets up between 7 and 7:30. Our son goes to school, so I like, to see him get on the bus, right? Then I go and get my workout in, and then my day just starts. I just have a plan of events. And the one thing that I really said that was helpful for me was have things to look forward to.
Yes.
Have things on the calendar to look
Purpose.
forward to. That's purpose. So that way you get up, you got to get dressed, you got to, fill up the car with a gas tank. You got to drop off clothes. You got to pick up food. Like these things all, are so helpful for you to integrate back into the communities where you're at because you have things that you're planning out.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the biggest thing for me is because as an entrepreneur you're trying to really figure out like what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And, but I think it's because I have all these events that I planned and I know that I'm going to, and our son is in basketball, so he's got his own thing that we have to keep up on. It is so important because when we go to these dark places and we think that no one, it's almost like you're in isolation, like you're on a whole nother island by yourself and no one gets it, right? And I had to pull myself out of it as well. It's just like, no, you need to figure it out. You need to find places to go.
You
That's
do, and ultimately, and again, to in the conversation, it's so important for people to know that one, they can reach out to
yes.
people,
Yes.
and it's so many. One thing I love, I'm going to be honest, the Veterans Affairs.
Yeah.
I know everyone has their experience with it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know what has happened. They have done such a good job in helping folks to transition.
Yeah.
There's so many resources out there.
Yeah.
You name it, from
Yeah.
mental health, physical health. It's funny because the VA chases me from my medical appointments. That's how good they are. Like if I
Sit
skip
down.
something, they will call. Is this Chief Glodowski? Your doctor put in, you missed your appointment. I was like, oh my goodness, they're serious. Like, I mean, they will they will keep calling you until you go in for your appointments. And you may think that's like, but that is such a good thing, right? Is that
Yeah.
they actually care about what about your well-being.
Yeah.
You call. For the most part, I've had pleasant experience on the phone when I need to, and in
Yeah.
person in the clinic, in the hospital when I go.
Yeah.
So we've got the resources that are out there. It's not, no one should ever be in an island. And that's what I
Yeah.
like to think. And I know it's not easy for some,
No.
but if you reach out, you will be surprised to find out how many people share in your experience.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're
You know.
absolutely right. So we've been on here
Yeah,
for
so I told you we could talk. I said this is like
oh, this
catching up,
is
and but I'm very grateful to be here on the show. We can keep talking.
yeah. I do know that people are getting ready. They're trying to
It's
get
my
out in their
bedtime. It's
day.
my bedtime. Are you
It's my
kidding?
bedtime. It's getting close for me too. But I do want
Yes.
to ask you a couple more questions. First, what would you like to share before we close up for tonight that we haven't talked about? Maybe it's something that you have learned or something that's exciting for you, like whatever you would like to share before we close.
Not to keep anybody, but first I want to thank those that are still serving. I still do, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy. I hate when people say, I just served 4 years. I
Mm,
just did something. Drives
yeah,
me insane. I tell them,
drives me insane
I
too.
said, do you think, why we are the 1%? Do you
Mm-hmm.
know how difficult that is to do every single day, to be
Yeah,
told what to do, when to do it, how to do it? You're doing it for the nation. So it's never just a just, right? So I
yeah,
thank them still for doing that. And they should do it well, whether it's
yeah.
4, whether it's 6, whether it's 10, 20, 30, do it well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the power of gratitude, of being
Mm,
grateful,
yeah,
is what will sustain you even when things are difficult, when you're going through your stages, because it's not always going to be easy as you climb
mm-mm.
up the ranks, whatever that might be. I found out there is power in gratitude.
Yeah,
If you can sit down, be still, and try to figure out 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for,
Mm-hmm.
that will help get you out of the funk of whatever you're going through, at least for a little bit,
For a little
right?
bit.
I mean, I don't, because I don't want to say that that's the answer to all the problems. I'm
Yeah,
no
yeah,
psychologist and
yeah, yeah,
anything,
yeah, yeah. I'm not
And
either.
then lastly, we're here for you. I swear, I will pick up the phone and talk to any veteran that I've never spoken to before.
Yep.
I will respond to an email, even if I've never met you.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only one.
No, I think this community is being built in such a way where we're wrapping our arms around each other and understanding that, our road, may have led, they may have been different on the way here, but that doesn't mean that we don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it is true. There's so many resources, but sometimes you just need that one person that just says, hey, like call this person, connect with this person, or I'll take you here and I'll take you there. That can just change the way that they have seen their transition or retirement or separation or however that is for them after service. So that's great advice. I mean, it's like that's really good advice.
Yeah, very simple,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
when I mean simply stated, not
Yeah.
simple as in,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I said, I try not to ever diminish anyone's pain,
Yeah.
or anyone's suffering ever.
Yeah. That's important. And then, so my last question, I ask every guest here on this show, because, when you get a little bit older, you get a little bit wiser. I don't know where this
You
kind of
hope.
came from, but you're like, where's all this wisdom coming from? Like,
You hope.
you hope, yeah, like my parents, my grandparents, the elders in the family, they would sit down and tell you all these stories and so forth and so on. And I didn't listen to half of them, but as I've grown older, I started to think about like what they were trying to do in that moment. And that was really just passing on information, maybe a breadcrumb, and hoping that you would pick it up, and carry it and do something with it. So after I retired, and I was 49 when I retired. And so I'm 53 now. And I'm seeing, like, at this point in my life, there are more days behind me than there are in front of me. And that becomes kind of a stark reality on, how your life just kind of passes on by, especially when you're in service, because a lot of our life was committed to, serving the nation. So now I'm like, okay, I'm being very intentional about what I do, how I do it, who I spend my time with, what model am I showing our son, our family, and so forth and so on. And one of the things that I have on my list is, my 80th birthday party. So, my aunt recently had hers. I think it was a couple of years ago. She had her 80th birthday party. And it really got me to thinking after they were sharing, they were giving her flowers, rightfully so. All right. And I'm listening and I'm like, wow, they have her on, they are describing her to a T. And it's because of her actions and what she has done in her lifetime that has gotten to her 80th birthday. So I just started to say, like my actions and the things that I do have to be in alignment with what I want my family and friends to say about me on my 80th birthday. So now I'm going to pose that question to you, Queen. So if God gives you 80 years and you have this 80th birthday party, what would you like your family and your friends to say about you?
That I cared.
Mm,
It's as simple. That I cared. That I loved them. That I cared.
yeah.
When I was, I didn't always get it right, but as a chief,
Yeah.
I remember in my promotion ceremony to chief, I hand wrote a letter to every airman under,
Mm,
and they probably they
wow.
weren't expecting it. I remember
Yeah.
my commander called me and said, "Did you really write that?" I was up till 2:30 in the morning and I was writing it down because when I got into the role, I was still a select, so I had not pinned on, and so I had a year as the FSS, and I was literally, they didn't know I knew each and every one of them. I studied them because I cared. I authentically cared.
Yeah.
So, you just kind of, and I wrote them a letter and I gave it to them during the ceremony.
Yeah.
And I want that to be the legacy that if I leave behind, my kids would say my mom cared.
Yeah.
They saw me in the house when I would talk to airmen for
Yeah.
hours. They
Yeah.
saw me go to airmen's graduation. They saw
Yeah.
me do all that, and I didn't do it out of obligation. Look, I could have been a chief and I sat down in my house.
That's right.
No one said I had to do any of that, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cared. I loved watching them succeed
Yeah.
because they were enough. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that's it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is just keep things simple.
Yeah.
It's not it shouldn't be complicated. Keep it simple. I just
Yeah.
want to be known that I cared.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think that's why when I was sick and I felt like I didn't get I think there was
uh-huh.
a part of me that was like maybe I did something that wasn't right, or but that wasn't the case. They cared in their way, but they have to, I'm one of 100,
Yeah.
right? So they can't just focus on just me.
Yeah.
But that's it,
Yeah.
that I cared.
Well, I feel it. I am just waiting. Y'all just you don't know. Like we're gonna be in person, we're gonna see each other, we're gonna be taking lots of pictures, and y'all gonna see these pictures, okay?
I'm ready to go out now. Like I said,
We're-
a lot of my medical stuff is done and out of the way, and by the grace of God, I'm grateful. And
yes. So it's
now,
time for us to be outside. So you're gonna see me and
yes,
DeeDee again, in person. But I just so thankful that you are here, that you were able to share. This
thank
is your
you.
first time on a live,
I know,
and
and I went over.
yeah. So
All my bosses in my military career would tell you I could talk, so let
this
me get off.
hey, you know what? This is my show. I can do whatever I want.
Amen. I love it. I
So
love it,
we're
Queen.
over. Right. We're over. Okay. Um, but it's been a really great conversation. And I do want to thank our guests that were here live, which was Kim Mallard and Leslie George on
Thank
the
you,
Facebook
ladies.
side. And Leslie George said, "Great conversation, ladies."
Thank
So
you.
for anyone who comes back and watches the replay, just go ahead and put in hashtag replay. If there's something in the conversation that really sparked, something for you, go ahead and write it in the comments so me and DeeDee can see them, and we'll
Mhm.
definitely be responding to them.
Responding.
Yes. And then if you're interested in a lot more shows, I've got it on the Slay to Success YouTube channel. All you got to do is put in Slay to Success, or you can put my name in, Rochelle Hemingway, and you will find there's probably like well over 300 videos over there. There's just a lot of information from a lot of different people, varying voices, varying backgrounds, that, have said yes to coming on the show and sharing. We will be back here, okay, next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have another Slay Amazing guest. And yes, they are another woman veteran. So you want to come back and listen to her story,
I'll
because
be
she
listening.
definitely has a great story to share, just like DeeDee did. All right, y'all. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Happy Sun Slay. Thank you, DeeDee.
Thank you
And
for
keep
having me.
on. You're welcome, Queen. And keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.